In 2021, researchers aboard a whale-watching boat in Iceland saw something they didn't expect. They spotted a female orca swimming next to a very unusual calf. It didn't have a white spot near its eye like orcas do, and as it turned out, it wasn't even an orca. This may be the first documented case of an orca caring for the offspring of another species, a long-finned pilot whale. And when I say caring, I mean typical maternal behavior, as if the calf was the orca's own baby to begin with. And if you know anything about animals, well, or have been watching our videos long enough, you probably know that orcas don't have the best reputation in the marine world. They are apex predators preying on almost everything they stumble across. It makes sense that if a pilot whale needs someone to take care of its offspring, an orca should be the last on its list. It's the worst babysitter imaginable. The calf was clearly not feeling well and found some sort of shelter among the orcas. It didn't try to nurse, but simply swam behind the adult orcas so that the currents of water from their bodies allowed it to conserve energy. There were no adult pilot whales nearby. The behavior of the female orca was weird, but scientists have several theories of what exactly they observed. It might have been a rescue after all. As an act of kindness, the orca decided to help the offspring of another species which would have surely died otherwise. It's possible that the orca lost its calf and adopted another one because it was grieving. Finally, the pilot whale calf could have been abducted by an orca for an unknown purpose. For example, it could use it as a snack, which conveniently followed the predator and therefore stayed fresh longer. Whatever the case, when researchers saw the same orca family again the next year, the calf was no longer with them. Most likely, it simply died because it was too young to handle life in the sea. Well, or the orca ate it after all. But you know what the most interesting thing is? In 2022, scientists spotted the same female orca chasing a pod of pilot whales along with its kin. But the pilot whales repeatedly drove the orca away as if they knew it was up to no good. So maybe it was an abduction after all? And the pilot whale calf might not have been eaten? Researchers note that for 9 years before that moment, the female orca didn't have any calves. Perhaps it was too old, which means it couldn't produce any milk. The baby pilot whale could have simply starved to death. Whatever happened, one thing is clear: the interaction between different cetaceans may be much more complex than it seems at first glance. Although only a single case of orcas hunting pilot whales has been observed in this particular part of the ocean, they do it quite often elsewhere. Orcas regularly hunt and eat a variety of dolphin species. There have also been reports of orcas being attacked by dolphins, although this is most likely caused by simple competition for food. Though actually, orcas are pretty rough creatures. They don't need a reason to kill someone. Moreover, there have been documented cases where orcas have even killed each other. In 2018, there was the first reported case of an orca killing its own kin, and the victim was a calf. A calf! Knowing this, the information that orcas are capable of caring for another animal's offspring seems quite surprising. Scientists watching as a 46-year-old female orca and her 32-year-old adult son chased a 13-year-old mother, her infant calf, and a younger sister. There were cuts on the bodies of the chased orcas. Eventually, the adult orcas caught up with their victims, and there was a clash, as a result of which the calf died. This begs the logical question: why would an orca kill a calf, even teaming up with another orca to do that? Scientists note that female orcas are incredibly protective of their sons and often help them choose a mate. One theory claimed that in this particular case, mother and son were trying to kill the calf in order to get to its mother. That way she could have offspring from the son of an older orca. That sounds creepy, especially by human standards. However, there are other theories. Some people believe it was just an accident or even an attempt to hunt or compete for prey, but I personally think the attack was clearly intentional. It's worth saying that orcas actually have weird relationships with their calves, even when it comes to their own offspring. For example, orca mothers from the group off the coast of Washington state continue to take care of their sons into adulthood, even if it affects their own ability for future reproduction. Orcas turn male calves into real mama's boys. Actually, both sons and daughters stay in their mother's group for their whole life, but daughters don't have the right to receive any part of the prey from their mothers once they reach puberty. At the same time, male orcas are quite a bit bigger than females, so they require more calories and are less maneuverable when they hunt fish. Could that be the reason why mothers choose to help their sons? Maybe they just can't do it on their own. Or do mothers simply love their sons more and therefore catch the prey for them? Researchers believe it all comes down to an evolutionary cost-benefit analysis. When daughters reproduce, their calves usually stay in the same group as the grandmother, which means there's another mouth to feed, so there's a cost in helping the daughter reproduce. Male orcas usually reproduce in someone else's group. This way, the son leaves offspring without putting an extra burden on orca grandmas. But this strategy takes a toll on the grandmas themselves. According to the statistics, each surviving son cuts his mother's chances of having a new calf by more than 50% in a given year. By taking care of sons, mothers receive less of the nutritional resources required to carry a child, which means they simply can't reproduce. Actually, I didn't expect to find out there were grandmas in orca groups. Grandmas who take care of the young orcas? According to a recent study, orca calves that didn't have elderly grandmothers had a higher mortality rate than others, especially when food was hard to come by. Orca grandmas who are no longer capable of reproducing may catch more fish to share with their grandkids and also look after potentially naughty kids, helping them when needed. While male orcas sometimes don't live past their 30s, females can bear offspring well into their 30s and 40s and then go on to live for many decades after they lose the ability to reproduce. And that, in fact, is very rare. Most animal species don't live beyond their reproductive age. However, there are some species that stand out from the rest and that have developed the ability to live much longer. The list of such species is very short and includes humans, orcas, beluga whales, short-finned pilot whales, and narwhals. Biologists aren't sure why this happens, but it appears to be quite a beneficial trait for the animal. Also, orcas can act as midwives. No, seriously. In 2015, a newborn orca calf appeared off the coast of Seattle, to the surprise of scientists. Its birth wouldn't be a remarkable event if not for a few details. The observers noticed something strange, the scratch marks on its fin, very similar to teeth marks. Then they noticed that the calf was swimming with an orca who was too old to be its mother. It was its grandmother. And the scientists assumed that the grandmother was also a midwife. The thing is, delivering a baby can be difficult for many cetaceans, including orcas, so support from another female is sometimes a very big factor. A grandmother or other experienced female orca can pull on the calf's fins with its teeth to get it out of the birth canal faster. And then they probably say, "Congratulations, it's a boy." I wonder how that sounds in orca language. Actually, orcas are very complex creatures, intelligent and empathic enough to act illogically at times. That is, it's unknown whether orcas can be altruistic towards other sea creatures. But there is some evidence that might support that. When observers spotted a humpback whale in Bremer Bay, Australia, they quickly realized the animal was in very bad shape. The whale was exhausted and covered all over with parasites called sea lice, which feed on the skin and blood of fish and whales. Another danger was the rope that had somehow tangled around its tail. And when it seemed like things couldn't possibly get any worse, several orcas showed up nearby, ready to begin their feast. Much to the people's surprise, 2 male orcas swam up to the whale showing curiosity, which is normal behavior for these predators, but they weren't hostile. The whale defended itself, but the orcas didn't respond with aggression. After that, the matriarch of the orca pod appeared, and soon the rope around the whale's tail was gone. And then the orcas simply swam away, leaving the rescued whale in safety. And that was incredibly strange. Normally, orcas never miss a chance to attack humpback whales, and they're very tenacious, even when they target a huge individual. So what's the deal then? There are several theories that try to explain this illogical behavior. One of them says the orcas weren't hungry, or the humpback whale was out of season. During the summer months, orcas prefer to hunt fish. Or was it simply an act of kindness and mercy? That's quite weird for wild animals, because orcas are known for their violent behavior. For example, did you know fashionistas among orcas like to wear fish hats? In 2022, an 11-year-old male orca, Alder, created a fuss on social media when he was photographed with a dead fish on his head. How and why could an orca put it there? After all, this isn't the only episode like that. Back in 1987, scientists observed an orca wearing a dead salmon as a hat. This super weird behavior quickly spread among several groups of orcas for about 6 weeks and then suddenly disappeared. This may have been part of a teenage fashion trend, although no one knows for sure why orcas chose to wear salmon in this unusual way. And it's not as incredible as it might seem at first glance. Orcas, whales, and dolphins have their own culture, a set of behavior patterns that are shared by society and passed on within the population, for example, from older individuals to younger ones. Horizontal sharing of knowledge also works, especially when it comes to learning new and useful skills. But there are times when such cultural quirks are passing and bring no obvious benefit. Well, you know how it is. Trends fade away just as fast as they appear. Today, the popular trend among orcas is attacking ships. Anyway, this behavior was observed in the summer of 2022 off the coast of France, Portugal, and Spain. In one case, 4 orcas suddenly began ramming and rocking the ship. In another episode, they chased the ship for 90 minutes while experienced sailors tried to put some distance between them and the orcas. Orca attacks can be dangerous. 2 boats are reported to have sunk after an orca attack off the coast of Portugal. Other boats suffered broken rudders, as if orcas deliberately tried to disable them. It's unclear why young orcas act this way. Some researchers speculate that this behavior may simply be a temporary cultural fad for orcas. After all, the attackers are a few young males. Apparently, it's some kind of new challenge. Another incredibly human-like feature of the orca is its ability to grieve. Oddly enough, it also has something to do with orca's ability to wear anything on its head. In 2018, an orca, which scientists named J35, gave birth off the coast of Washington State in Canada, but her calf died a few hours later. The orca's pod left the area, leaving the mother alone with the dead calf. The mother repeatedly lifted the dead calf out of the water, supporting it with her forehead and pushing it out into the choppy sea. The story didn't end there. Over 17 days after the calf's death, J35 carried its body on her head, taking breaks only to feed or rest. During these moments, other orcas helped her. The biologist who witnessed this amazing event noticed that on the day the calf died, no less than 5 female orcas gathered around J35 and the carcass, a sign that they were grieving together. The orcas remained on the surface of the water, swimming in a harmonious circular motion for at least 2 hours, as if they were performing a ritual or a ceremony. After 17 days of carrying the carcass of her calf, J35 had to let it go. It began to decompose. Eventually, the orca returned to where it belonged, to her pod. An absolutely heartbreaking story. But don't worry, in 2020, that is 2 years after the tragic loss, J35 gave birth to a perfectly healthy calf. It was last seen in 2022, so it's most likely still alive. See you later.